They've been keeping you busy. More than busy. We get reforms every night almost. One day we got two, one day next week it's been all the back to school stuff. It's all the events, plus family and church, everything.
Hey, go ahead on the tag and share, family. Let's get everybody in. Want to say good afternoon and once again, welcome to, that's right, it's the Greg James Community Show right here on Hallelujah 95.3. Hey, listen, I want you to go ahead, for those of you who are on social media, I want you to go ahead on the tag, share. Let's get everybody in on all of our platforms. Today is going to be a very, very informative day right here on the Greg James Community Show. I want to give a big shout out to Christy Henry, the conscious chick, who is out in the community doing something to shape the conscience of people. Want to say good afternoon to you. Want to say good afternoon to all of those who are tuned in around the Leon, Gadsden, Jefferson area. Big shout out to my man, Jackie Pons, who once again, she made a major move down there in Jefferson County, came out with a B. Hey, man, listen, as powerful as he is coaching basketball, he know how to turn around a team that's losing. He know how to turn around the school. So I want to give a big shout out to him. And I'm not a resident of Jefferson, but if I was, you better know who I'll be bubbling in for, Superintendent. Keep it locked right here. We're getting ready to have the conversation. That's right. We're going to be talking with Leon County candidate for superintendent of schools, none other than Star Swain. And then we're going to cross over the line and we're going to be talking with none other than the man himself, Timothy Ashley, who's a candidate for Gadsden County Sheriff. Hey, listen, it's an important day right here on the Greg James Community Show. I want you to go ahead on the tag, share. Let's get everybody in because the conversation is about to get started. There's so much going on in and around the city until I'm not going to take time to go through all of what's happening. I'm just going to get ready to dive into what I know is the talk of the day. That's right, Leon County School Superintendent. Sitting with me today is none other than Miss Star Swain. How are you?
I am doing well. How are you?
I am absolutely phenomenal. I am excited that you squeezed me in your busy schedule of forums and meeting and greeting and knocking on doors and back to school.
Yes. It is a lot.
It's a lot. I tell you, listen, I want to say this because I've been at about 3 of the last forums that you all have had when, concerning the school superintendent. And I'm going to say this, I got about 12 to 15,000 people tuned in. I was really impressed with you.
Thank you.
I mean, I knew that you could sing, but I also am impressed with your passion, your vision for the Leon County schools, the teachers, the students, the community. And I wanted to take this opportunity to bring you in, and I want thousands of people to hear your message because I thought it was, for the last 3 debates or forums that I was at, I mean, I was just impressed. I was texting people like, wow, man, you all got to hear Star's message. So let's talk a little bit about who is Star Swain. Tell us a little bit about who is Star.
So I am, as you've said, Star Swain. I'm originally from Macon, Georgia, came here to Tallahassee in 1999 for school. And from there, I started in education and preschool right there on FAMU's campus at what was then New Beginnings, but it's now ERCCD, and moved on to teaching and then into literacy coaching and being an ELA team leader, also assistant principal, and then most recently was principal at FAMU DRS for 6 years.
Wow. So you've been around education for a while.
And for a long time, that's all I've been doing. You know, I've been here in Tallahassee for 25 years, and all of those 25 years, it has been me in education.
Wow. So let me ask you this, because I think this is so important for those who are listening. And there's so much that these debates and these forums give insight to. But just for basic information, none of the policy stuff. I've heard some amazing responses that you have given. Just tell my audience, basically, why are you running for superintendent?
So I am running for superintendent. Number one, I have a passion for education. I have a passion for children. And as a parent, because I do have a child who is in Leon County School District, and as a parent, as a community member, some of the things and decisions that I saw being made were not for the best or the benefit of our children. And so for me, I didn't see anyone really stepping up to the plate that I felt could do the job, that needed to bring in the change, that could bring it in and really had that heart for the community. And I said, well, my husband, first of all, was one of the biggest pushers. He was like, you should run for superintendent. I was like, why? He was like, because you actually care about what's going to happen and you can do it. So I said, why not? Jumped in the race, and the rest is history.
So after, giving it some thought, after realizing that you had love for an education, you looked at the full scale of the present superintendent who's been serving now, I think, right at 8 years. And you discovered in your quest for looking that there were some things that you felt, you believe, that are not being done for the best interest of our schools, of our children, of our teachers, of the community as a whole. Was it a brave step?
It was a hugely brave step. This is not something that I thought would ever be, part of my career or part of my future. And so for me to step into this race, there's an understanding that it took a lot of courage, but there's a lot of passion behind it. There's a lot of drive behind it. It's not driven by a need to be in politics, a need to be a leader, a need to be seen. It's driven by the need for our children and what needs to be done, what's best for children, what's best for education, and seeing that that is not what's happening. And so for me, I want to get in there and make the change, make the difference, do the things that need to be done to make our school district better.
Wow. And when you talk about what's best for our children, I want to give a big applause to our sheriff, who, did some data study on the anatomy of homicide. And with that study, he discovered that many of our children that were inside of our public schools, who were expelled, who were dealing with some of the issues that they were facing, where many of them graduated not from high school to college, but they graduated from juvenile detention centers to prisons, and at a very young age. So when you said there's a gap whereby our children are missing something, I certainly am well aware of that, because it's one of the things that really bothered me. Well, back in about 2008, 2009, was the fact that there's a block of children who get expelled from school, and no one monitors what happens to them. And if we don't have our hands around them, as the sheriff discovered through the data, and everything is driven by the data, we can't deny that.
Right.
Then they are going to end up in the penal system. So therefore, they're able to build prisons based on what happens at the third grade level.
Right.
And what have you seen from that, Star?
So for me, what I've seen, and especially I'm glad you brought up data, because looking at the data, and it's, let me say, number one, it's a great thing that we have a lot of schools who have made some great strides, who have made accomplishments that did not happen prior to now. And so that is to be commended.
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely commended. There is, however, still areas, or there are still areas that we have to work on. And one of those is making sure that we do not have the disparities that we're seeing. So we have some B schools, we have some A schools, we have some C schools, but within those, when we look at the data and we go deeper, we start looking at the actual subgroups, and we start looking at what's happening with those subgroups and how many students are still below proficiency. How many students, you know, they're showing gains, but they're still not quite making it. And because of that, like you said, when they're not making it to where they need to be in third grade and on, then we start having behavior problems and things of that nature. Those things are not being addressed because they're not being looked at, right? And for me, a part of the reason, again, that I'm running for superintendent is for that to stop, for me to move in and actually pay attention to what's happening inside of our infrastructure. There's a lot of addressing, when you have a tree, you know, you have fruit, you have leaves, and we're addressing the leaves and the fruit, but we're never getting down to the root.
Wow.
Right? We have to get to the root of the problem. What's happening with those subgroups? How do we address the needs of that community? And as I've said before, how do we bring about culturally responsive strategies to those students who may not learn in the same way, those students who've experienced trauma that don't learn in the same way? How do we address their needs and make sure that they don't get onto the wrong track and we change their trajectory?
Wow. You know, I just, you know, paying close attention to some of the debates and some of the forums that I've attended, and listening to you in the last 3 that I've attended, I've concluded my reasoning for feeling or knowing why you're running for this role. But what makes you feel that you are qualified?
So one of my qualifications, of course, is that I've been, you know, I've been an educator for 21 years. Been in education. I've been at just about every level in terms of, you know, working in a school district, in a public school. I've worked in charter schools. I've worked in private schools. So I have experience understanding the landscape of any type of school that there is, whether it be a school that's, you know, performing at a very low level. I worked in Jefferson County School District when they were in the middle of really trying to get that school back moving forward, when the state was already in there working with us. I've had that experience, so I know what it takes to bring a school back, how to work with the state to get what you need in terms of resources and assistance. I've also had, you know, the ability, like I said, to be a principal, to lead, to know what it takes to bring in teachers, to retain teachers, to change culture and climate, which right now, Leon County Schools school district, the culture and climate is lacking. It is declining. And that's another thing. Like I said, we have the B schools, we have some A schools, C schools, but we have teachers leaving. There's a reason for that. You know, we have students and families that are leaving. There's a reason for that. And what I feel is that there are a lot of families, parents, and children whose needs are not being addressed. Their voices are not being heard, and they feel undervalued. And these families and teachers want to know that somebody's going to listen and actually address the problem and not sweep it under the rug.
You know, you said 3 things in there, and you know, there's so many that I want to stick a pin in. One of the things that I want to stick a pin in is you're talking about the retention of teachers and so many teachers leaving and students. Well, I was at one of the forums and I heard the superintendent and one of the school board members talk about the fact that they changed the logo to become more attractive to students. And a lot of people throughout the community has, you know, raised questions as to $100,000 plus being spent on a logo. You brought up something that was far more interesting than the 100,000. The fact that logos will have to be changed throughout. That means vehicles. I mean, wherever there is a old logo, and it's going to exceed more than. Did you have a concern with that?
I had a huge concern with that. I did not understand, number one, why are we changing the logo when we've not changed what's happening inside of schools?
Wow.
How do we change a logo when we still don't have a positive work environment for teachers, where teachers still are not happy, where teachers are still leaving? How do we change a logo when some of our ESC population is not being served in the way that they should be served, or our ESC teachers are not being paid what they need to be paid, or they're being in they're dealing with these different issues and climate where, you know, some teachers are in classrooms where they're being beat up, you know, because of students who have exceptionalities, and they're dealing with all of these hostile work environments, but it's not being addressed. It's not even being talked about, right, in discussion. And it's not to say that, you know, as a leader, you're not going to have everything 100% correct. It's not going to be 100% perfect. But the issue that I have is that we're not even bringing it to the surface. We're not acknowledging what's going on. So that $100,000 logo to me just said, oh no, nothing is happening. We're all good. Everything's perfect and everything's dandy. And you go out and talk to people in the community, you go out and talk to teachers, you're talking to parents, and this is just random knocking on doors. You're not planning to run up on some of these people, and they're sharing the exact same concerns from one side of the city to the other. And so for me, that logo piece was putting the cart before the horse, as I've said many times. That should not be the first thing we do. The first thing you do is you go in and you address the concerns. You figure out what's happening in your community, in your school community, what's happening with your teachers. You use your data, as you said. You know, you have a percentage of teachers and students and families that are leaving every single year. You need to figure out why, and then you need to address that problem.
You know, it's amazing that you said that. And one of the things that is so true, the logo. And, you know, when I heard, just being very transparent, when I heard it that night, and when I heard you shared your perspective on it, it made me go back and look at my church logo. And my church logo is a logo that symbolizes a heartbeat, Life Church. And I said, does the logo really match the people who are in the building? Are we able to really make this logo come to life by speaking life to people and breathing life into people? So before I begin to look at a logo, let me make sure the people are able to understand the logo. And I think that was something you said that night that really made me go back and even write a sermon about a logo, because of the fact that, wow, you made a powerful point. We got a logo, but we got teachers who don't understand the logo. We got teachers who are working in hostile environment. We got teachers who are being bullied by administration. We got teachers who are trying to do what they need to do, but don't have the kind of support that administration needs to give them. But we've changed the logo, and we want to live out what the logo says when people don't even understand. So I want to applaud you for sharing that, because it really opened my eyes, and that began to keep me following these little superintendent forums. So you know that you're qualified for the role, and if you was to be elected as superintendent, what would be the main thing that you would want to accomplish?
So the main thing that I want to accomplish, I've always started by saying my passion is for children and education. Education is about children and making sure that they have the best future possible, that we set them up as best as we can. So where we start with that is teachers, right? That means getting the right teachers in the right place. So first we got to recruit and retain those teachers. We need to pull in more highly qualified teachers. That means that they are certified, and they're certified in the area in which they are teaching. And also we need to make sure that we're putting teachers, as I said, in the right place. If you look at the data on DOE's website, it's all there for the whole world to see.
Absolutely.
If you look at the data, the percentage of experienced teachers are higher in schools that are performing better. And then we have inexperienced teachers teaching in Title I schools or in schools who are not performing as well. There's something wrong with that, right? If we have schools where we know that students are struggling a little bit more, where they need more support, more resources, that's where we need to have our highly qualified teachers at. That's where we need to have our experienced teachers there. And I think the problem that's happening is that we're not able to recruit or retain teachers in those areas because of the pay. So the pay has to be increased. There is, for me, as I've said before, you do what you want to do. When you put your mind to something and you say, I know this is how I want it to be, you're going to make sure it happens. And so that excuse that, well, we have to get with the state, which we do, because the state, we're the lowest paid in the country, in Florida, so we do have to handle that. But what we have in Leon County is enough. It's enough to pay teachers more. It is. What's happening is the funding is not being allocated appropriately to make sure that teachers and students are priority. We're making other things a priority that should not be a priority, like the $100,000 that came from the operating fund, which is the same fund that we use to pay teachers. So that's what I mean when I say reallocate. Why are we spending money there? That's not the time. I know it's been said, well, it could have been rolled out better. No, that's not the issue. The issue is it should not have been rolled out yet, period. Until you fix the problems, then you roll it out.
Wow. I mean, the thing about it is, Star, to hear you, and like I said, to hear your passion and to hear your transparency about how you are seeing things has really captured my attention to give more attention to your voice. And so there are so many issues, and early voting is getting ready to get started. People are already doing mail-in ballots. And I wanted to make sure that I gave you an opportunity to be a part of this platform for our thousands of listeners to hear you. And I don't know when the next superintendent forum is coming, but for those of you who are listening to the broadcast, I'm talking with Star Swain, who is a candidate for Leon County School Superintendent. Over 20 plus years in the educational field. And right quick with the last 2 minutes that I have with you. And, now I feel like I needed to extend this show. I needed to, buy more time. And I'm supposed to be on vacation. But it was so vitally important that I spend time talking to you and my next guest. With the last 2 minutes that I have left, what are 3 important issues that you feel the district is facing that you would address?
So as I said before, number 1 is teacher recruitment and retention. Number 2 is making sure that our schools are safe, that we have a stronger discipline code, a code of conduct that is succinct, that makes sense, that is aligned and is uniform for the district. And then also just making sure, that our student enrollment is increased.
Wow.
We have to make sure our student enrollment is increased, because if not, we're not going to have the public school funding that we need. We're not going to have the funding to do what needs to be done. So we've got to get our families back to trusting the school district. And we do that by being transparent. We do that by making sure that all of our schools have a more positive culture and climate, that parents can trust that their students' needs are going to be met and that they're going to be cared for.
Wow. One of the things that I got in trouble, I made a post the other day about the first time ever teachers had a boot camp for professional development, whatever. And as they got ready, 69 first-time teachers. And I made a post that I applauded, but I was angered by it because there's so many first-time teachers who are not teaching, who are penalized, who are criminalized because they did not have the support. And I hear you mention that is a key to you. So as I get ready to wrap this up with you, Star, what would you do differently? The superintendent has been there for 8 years. He's crying for 4 more years. He still has work to do. What would you do differently if you were elected as superintendent?
The first thing that I'm going to do differently is I'm going to actually be visible at school sites more often. Actually bringing the support and the connection that there's a connection that's missing between the district and our schools. The district is working in a silo. They do not know what's happening in schools. And so when teachers say, well, this is happening and that is happening, they have no idea. So that's why it's not being addressed. So for me as a leader, it's very important to be visible, to make connections, to build relationships with our school leaders and our teachers, understand what the needs are, and then go forward from there. That is absolutely the first thing that I'll do differently.
Wow. Well, listen, I want to thank you so much for squeezing in your time to be with us. With the last minute that I have left, what would you say to the many listeners in Leon County that are tuned into this broadcast?
So the first thing I'm going to say to the many listeners is how important it is to vote on August 20th, not just because I'm running for superintendent, but because we have some very important races that affect our everyday living right here in Tallahassee. So please make sure that you vote on August 20th. And also, please make sure that you vote for Star Swain on August 20th, because I am here for children. I'm here for education. I'm here to make our school district better. I have the leadership qualities. I have the skills, the knowledge, the experience, and I am who we need for the job.
Wow. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, you heard it right here over 95.3 FM. It's the Greg James Show that keeps you informed, inspired, and going to the polls to vote Star Swain. Hey, don't go nowhere. I tell you, I'm coming up next. I'm going to be talking to the candidate for Gadsden County Sheriff. That's right, Timothy Ashley. We're going to be talking to him next. But Star, thank you so much for taking time to join us. And certainly, I applaud all that you do. And I pray that God's favor will be upon you as you go through the remaining days of this election.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
All right. Hey, listen, those of you who are tuned in to the broadcast, don't you go nowhere. I want you to stay tuned. Wow. That was amazing.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. It's never easy.
That was it. Right.
Yes, sir.
Hey, family, go ahead on and tag and share. Get right there down. Go ahead and tag and share. We're getting ready to talk to none other than, scoot over just a little bit. I need you. Oh, there you go. We're getting ready to talk to none other than our candidate for sheriff for Gadsden County. That's right, Timothy Ashley. So go ahead on and tag and share. Let's get everybody in. Let's get everybody in. Let's get everybody in. Dolores Smith, how are you? How you doing, sir? How you?
I'm doing great.
Doing wonderful. Well,
I'm just happy to be here.
Man, I'm glad to have you.
Yes, sir.
I'm glad to have you here with us on this wonderful day. What the name wrong with this phone? Okay. You didn't have a hard time finding it, did you?
No, sir.
Okay. Okay, go ahead. Those of you in Gadsden County, hey, go ahead on tag and share. I'm getting ready to talk to none other than the Gadsden County candidate, Mr. Timothy Ashley. I want to say good afternoon, and we're back with the second part of what I want to call a candidate update. And I want to give you insight and information. Candidates that are now on the ballot, and they are looking to give you insight on their roles, why they're doing what they're doing. Joining me in the studio now is none other than Mr. Timothy Ashley. I want to say good afternoon, sir, and how are you?
Great. Good afternoon to you, and thank you for inviting me. And I'm doing great. I'm excited to be here.
Wonderful. Well, we're glad to have you. I'm gonna push that up there to you a little bit closer. I want to make sure that everyone is tuned in and they can hear you. So let's talk a little bit about Gadsden County. You're there.
Yes.
And I want to talk a little bit about, for those who are listening to the broadcast, tell us a little bit about who Timothy Ashley is.
Okay, great. Timothy Ashley lived in Gadsden County almost 23 years. I've been a police officer for 38 years, actually over 38 years. retired from the Florida Highway Patrol as a major, working right here in the Big Bend area. An honorary rank of lieutenant colonel, worked with the sheriff's office of Gaston County for 8 years.
Wait. Let's go back. You was with the Florida Highway Patrol as a
commander. I was the major right here, just a few blocks down the road. I commanded the whole eight county Big Bend area for a few years here.
wow. That is amazing. I mean, such a leadership role. How often do somebody of our color serve as commander? Is that historical?
It's pretty rare. It's pretty rare. But one of the things I did do when I was there, I tried to increase those numbers. But it's rare, but it was all in God's doing. It wasn't me. It was the Lord. So I give him all the credit for that accomplishment.
Wow. Okay, commander. What else? I mean, over 30 years in law enforcement.
Over 38 years, worked with the sheriff's office for 8 years as the captain, the commander over patrol ops, communication dispatch center, accreditation, fleet. I did pretty much everything over there for 8 years.
So you're familiar with the sheriff department.
Very.
Wow.
Yes.
Oh man, I didn't know that. Well, listen, for those of you who don't know, tag share. This is the Great James Community Show. And guess what? We inform you, we inspire you, and we bring you up to date. I'm talking with Timothy Ashley, who's a candidate for Gaston County Sheriff, served with Florida Highway Patrol as commander, worked 8 years with the Gaston County Sheriff in several different departments.
Yes.
So
And the chief of police.
And then you moved on to
Chief of police for the city of Quincy.
So your whole life has been law enforcement.
Pretty much. Before then, I was United States Air Force. So I'm a veteran. So I served about 4.5 years in the United States Air Force.
Wow. So let me ask you this: with all of those years in law enforcement, considering that you've been in Gaston County, you see the population, you see the crime, you see what's happening in the county. What would be the first thing that you would do if you was elected sheriff?
The first thing I would do is collaborate all law enforcement efforts. Right now, my plan is to deputize every police officer in Gaston County. What is the purpose of that? Currently, right now, with the sheriff's office, it's normally maybe 3 deputies out to cover the entire county.
Wait, so you're telling me a county with over 20,000 residents? It may be more.
Yeah, yes, it is.
And you only have 3 deputies covering?
Often, yes.
Okay, go ahead.
So what we have to do for our citizens, we have to unite the resources. Yes, it will be a challenge to get all the other city managers, the chief of police, and all us on board, but I plan to deputize all officers so we can respond to any citizen anywhere, because crime knows no boundary. So when someone is being robbed or their life is being threatened, they don't want to wait on a deputy to come from Chattahoochee to Havana. They want some help now with the deputies, with deputizing everyone. Havana can respond, whether it's in Havana or Chattahoochee. Midway can respond, Gretna. We all can collaborate our efforts to protect our citizens, and that's the most important thing.
Wow. So I mean, let me really wrap my mind around what you're saying, because you're saying that at any given time, is this a night shift, a day shift, or is this at any given time?
At any given time.
At any given time, we're talking about no more than 4 deputies working the whole county.
Sometimes less.
Sometimes less. So that means if a crime takes place, just like you said, I'm just trying to wrap my mind around this to really make sure that I'm hearing what I'm hearing. So if a crime takes place, if criminals decided that they wanted to commit crime in Chattahoochee, and then they wanted to send another group to Havana to commit crime, and another group to Midway to create crime, deputies would be running all over the place trying to.
If it happened within the county limits or outside the municipalities, yes, it is certain things that can be done.
Right.
But it's after the fact. Yes, we can we can call upon mutual aid, and that takes a supervisor and communication. But if we are deputized, they don't need to wait on some blue tape. They can automatically respond no matter what.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and in addition to that, when you come up with this mentality that we are going to go all in, all law enforcement, guess what? I was at FHP. I can call FHP and I can get assistance at any time. I can call the state's attorney's office, the U.S. Marshals. We have a relationship, and that's what it's going to take. FBI, FDLE, and everybody coming in together. And I proved that with the city of Quincy, with the task force. We worked together excellently, and we solved over 80% of our homicides. We reduced crime by 26% in 1 year, and we had taken over 100 and something guns just off the streets of Quincy.
Wow.
In my tenure.
Wow. Well, listen, I think that is amazing. The first thing that you would do different than that you would do as sheriff would be to deputize those officers in the various cities to help support law enforcement throughout the county.
Yes.
I think that's amazing because I think there are a lot of people who are responding to our Facebook now saying that the number of deputies that are at work, they did not know. So that's alarming. And most people are misinformed and misled. And this is an hour where elections are too critical to be misinformed. Stuff that sounds good may not always be good.
Right.
So I'm glad to know that. And so now, I got this question from someone. There's a lot of missing persons. There's a lot of unsolved murders in the Gadsden County area.
Absolutely.
What would you do as if you elected as sheriff to go to work on what families are still dealing with and perhaps don't even see a answer in sight?
Yes. One of the first things I would do, in addition to building and training and developing a top-notch investigative unit, I'm going to bring in a cold case expert investigator. I've done that with the city of Quincy. I brought in a captain that has all the contacts through FBI and the different databases, and she was working on some of our cold cases when I was with the city of Quincy. We're going to bring her back in, and we are going to meet with each and every family, and we're going to review those files. We're going to try to retrieve the missing information, and we're going to try to get closure and close those cases. We don't just want to say, well, we can't do anything. If we can find the answer, even if it may be 20, 30 years, that's my intent. And we're going to do it together, and we're going to need everybody to realize they can trust us. We're going to do it.
Wow. Let me ask you this, because I heard you say something. Collaboration is key, whether you're in law enforcement or whether you're in a ministry. The local pastors in this area, we try to collaborate.
Yes.
How do I want to ask you this? Do you feel, or do you know whether the sheriff department have mutual aid agreements in place with any municipalities in the county?
They can be called upon at any time. If they don't have enough people, something go wrong, or there's a monumental task, they can request information or request resources from anybody. Leon County is excellent at sending help across the bridge over there to help us out, any of us out, not just the Gadsden County Sheriff's Office, but any municipality. FDLE is exceptional. We have a great relationship with them. It's just building rapport. And you know yourself as a pastor, Pastor Holmes is a legend. I communicate with you, and I know you don't know me for long, and I say, I see your work. I see your work. And those are things that's important, because we can collaborate with different disciplines of our profession, and we can serve our citizens to extreme heights, but we just have to do it and believe it and know each other.
Wow. And I think that is so important. And I think, you made it clear from the very offset of the conversation that your relationship spreads with FBI, the U.S. Attorney, State Attorney, Highway Patrol, FDLE, which is key to being able to look at what we're dealing with now.
Right.
In our communities now, there is more unrest when it comes to our juveniles.
Yes.
Our juveniles now, and as you know, I've seen you several times. I'm sitting in juvenile court watching Judge Garner pour out her heart to so many of our children who are packed in the courthouse. You've seen it. I've seen it.
Right.
Intervention and prevention is so important. What would you do differently if you were the sheriff based on what I'm seeing? I'm seeing kids who are constantly returning back.
Yes.
I applaud the sheriff here in Leon County for what he's doing to intervene and to prevent. And it's visible. It's engaging the community. It's engaging faith leaders. Sitting there seeing what you see when you've been in the juvenile courts, what would you do to ensure that we decrease the rate of juveniles that are being direct file and that are showing up inside of that courtroom?
Yes, we have to get ahead of it. First of all, when I was the chief of police with the city of Quincy, I identified, promoted, and a special investigator. I took money from one part of my budget and I made a special investigator just to concentrate on the youth in the city limits of Quincy. We built a relationship with Department of Juvenile Justice, Children and Family Services, State Attorney's Office, Children's Division, Judge Garner, and other stakeholders. And what we were able to do with that special investigator with our youth, we were given access into those programs that identified our problematic youth, and we got ahead of them. If they were supposed to be at home at a certain time, that investigator checked on them. And then he started training the other officers how to be a part of that big picture. So when the community and the officers get involved and the other stakeholders, and they say, hey, you know, we saw a young man over here with maybe yellow shoes on. We reach out to the school resource deputies, Elijah Key and that group over there, their security programs, and we put our heads together and we find those juveniles, because what we want to do is get them to comply before they get themselves into a position of no return. So that's our preventative. And at the same time, we're teaching them, we're showing them that we believe in you, we love you. Yes, go home, don't do this. We build relationship with them. We met with a group at the park in Quincy that had some problems, and we bought them pizza. That those officers for the city of Quincy out of their own pockets, hey, let's meet with y'all. So we began to build relationships with them. And at the same time, Pastor James, when you collaborate those thoughts, that shared vision with the community, start believing in the police officers with a 21st century policing mentality, and you let people know they are important. Again, the heights of crime prevention, taking our youth back. In addition to that, and I'll move on, we developed also a youth program while I was with the city of Quincy, and we're going to expand that countywide. Those programs that I just spoke of that we started in the city of Quincy, we're going to expand that countywide. So our youth program, we came up with an Explorer program. That part of that Explorer program is is mostly a target young men and women that want to be police officers, correction officers. But the bigger part of that, it teaches our youth camaraderie. It teaches them teamwork. It teaches them honesty, integrity. It teaches them to dream. And that program is so beneficial. And at the same time, we're going to bring in the PAL League, Police Athlete League, that usually are in these big cities. And we're going to collaborate with the Boys and Girls Club, with the rec centers, and the other police departments. And we're going to make a difference. The more of us in it, and we believe it, we are going to take our youth back, and we're going to make a big difference.
You know, that's so important. And I'm really applauding you for saying that and having a heart to do that, because one of the things that we know inside of our communities, law enforcement officers, law enforcement as a whole has a bad stigma.
Yes.
It's hard for us to trust law enforcement because there have been so many bad raps placed within law enforcement. When we look at our TV, when we look at the news, look on our television, we see some of the things that are being done in big cities. One of the things that I feel like is important is bridging the gap between community and cops.
Yes.
certainly in a small county like Gaston,
Yes.
everyone knows everyone. How important is it for people who are living in communities, especially our elders, and especially our families, and even single mothers,
Yes.
to feel and know that they can trust the people that we see in green uniform?
Yes. That first start with relationships. We have to, through 21st century policing strategies, which is being a part of the community. I was teaching our young officers, if you see kids and a family out in the yard, don't get in no rush. Stop and spend a little time with them. Talk to them. Tell them who you are. Get out and shoot a little basketball with them. What? We can play. Take 5 minutes. Go out there and shoot a little basketball with them. Throw a softball with them. Get to know them. You see elderly people sitting on the porch. Talk to them. Let them know. Do you need anything? Spend 5 or 10 minutes with them. We can do things like that. In addition to that, for instance, when I was with the city of Quincy, we created a STOP program to help our seniors, our elderly, and our STOP program that stands for Seniors Task Force for Protection. And I sent in a group of investigators to teach them how to look for crime, fraud, how to better protect themselves, how to secure their home. We give them security analysis of their home if they needed it. Not only the businesses, that's known for businesses, but we expanded that through our STOP program. We want to expand that countywide, and we want to find our elderly, our youth, when we want to just let them know that we are there for them. They're our boss, the citizen. We have to put our citizens back at the top of the pyramid, where no man is the reign supreme. It's got to be the citizen, and we do that through community meetings on a regular basis. We need to meet at least once a month with different communities, not township. It's 5, 6 of them. That's too big.
Community.
Break it down within the communities where you have a community ambassador that has direct contact with me in the sheriff's office, and we have one of y'all, so we can share ideas, so we can grow together. We can do it together, but we just have to believe and have a shared vision for it.
Wow. And I think that is so important. And I like what you said about community conversations.
Yes.
And the thing about it is, I say this all the time. Somebody just texted me and said, that guy's speaking my language.
Okay.
Well, shouts out to you, Darren Mason. I just put you on blast. That's what you just said. So one of the things that is so important in this age and in this era is that community engagement, community conversations be a big part of law enforcement priority.
Yes.
Because you want people to see something and say something.
Yes.
But if I can't trust you
Right.
when I see and say what I say, then how are we going to be able to work together?
Yes.
As sheriff, if you're elected as sheriff, what would you do to ensure the community as a whole that you have officers, you have staff that they can trust?
Yes. Accountability. First, it starts with me. That's why I'll ask for your vote. But more important than me than anything, I need your support. What is the difference? When you support me, just like my mother, I never knew my father, but my mother and people, that my brothers and sisters, when we're coming up, and when you support me, you hold me accountable. You say, if you see something that's wrong, you tell me. You as a citizen, you have to tell me if we're not doing what we're supposed to do. You're going to have to trust me. It starts with me, for one. For instance, like me, in my whole career with the Florida Highway Patrol, the city of Quincy, you never catch me out of uniform. I'm a deputy, trooper, police officer first. I'm never going to not show up. If I hear a hot call come out, I'm one of the first ones going. And I can remember an old trooper that just retired. He said, you was a great commander. I said, really? Why do you say that? I asked him. He said, you was always there with us.
Wow.
I always saw you on scene. You always talked to us. You knew when our kids were sick. You paid attention. So with that mindset, if you support me, you're going to be a part of the sheriff's office. You start putting yourself back at the top of the pyramid. You say something in these meetings, these community meetings, and you say, hey, this office is bad. So this is what I'm gonna do with the officers. I'm gonna bring in a full-time training coordinator so we can professionalize the entire agency. We want the best training possible out there. And you can't do that piecemeal by having someone that works the road, a lieutenant or sergeant, and then they also the training coordinator. You're jack of all trades, master of none.
Wow.
You have to have, in this 21st century policing, you have to have a professional training officer. And when you do that with the best training, and not only that, Pastor, to build rapport with those other 5 police agencies, I'm gonna offer them to train with us. I want them to train with us. I don't want to charge them anything. If we could operate throughout the county on one accord with the same training, whether we have to respond to a domestic situation or what have you, we are well trained, but we gonna have to do it together. And I think that's a start on getting it there.
Wow. You know, you just said something that was so key. You said, as a commander, some of the officers said to you, you're always here.
Mhm.
You're here.
Mhm.
How important is that? I mean, you know, you cannot serve if you're elected as sheriff and be missing in action.
Yes, right. You got to be there. And we can go back to the old adage in the Bible. We can go to that where it talks about being the best at whatever you are. And I can't think of the correct terminology, but you have to be there first. You have to be a part of it. Those people will respect you if you are there. So I'm a policeman first. I'm not a chief of police. I'm not a major or commander. I'm not a captain. I'm an officer first, and I'm gonna be there first with you. And we go to war together. United we stand, divided we shall fall. I cannot be a person that's not willing to wash your feet like Jesus did. I'm going to wash everybody's feet. Whether you're an employee, whether you a citizen, I'm going to serve you, and you can't do anything about it. I'm going to take care of you.
Wow. Let me ask you this, and certainly for those of you who are just tuned into the broadcast, we're talking with Timothy Ashley, who is a candidate for the Gadsden County Sheriff Department, well over 38 years in law enforcement, served at one of the highest level at the Florida Highway Patrol as a commander, went on to work 8 years in the Gadsden County Sheriff Department in several different divisions, and went on to be the chief of police as well. Let me ask you this. When it comes to illegal narcotics in the county, what is your thoughts on looking at the present conditions, looking at the present leadership? Do you feel, what's your thoughts on, are illegal narcotics being investigated as they should, or what would you do differently?
Well, again, revamping the investigative unit. Now, I've already have the rapport with FDLE, DEA, FBI, and all of those entities. And we on board because when I was with the city of Quincy, we closed like 5 drug houses. We took, again, over 100 guns off the street. And one of the things that determines your health of your city, and why we were able to take a lot of those guns and drugs off the street, we took them off. Because if you have a traffic unit that sets the tone for your city, so traffic enforcement has to be there, and then you have to get involved in the task force. There are task force around here with the resources, but you have to be a part of it. You can't ask a task force to come to your county and then your deputies are not doing their part. If you show that you want to solve crimes with drugs and get drugs off the street, I guarantee you, FBI, FDLE, state attorneys all will be there, and we will do it together. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to get on the task force, and I'm going to tell you one of the great things about the task force around here that will help us in law enforcement and our citizens. When you're on that task force, any drug seizure, if it's $1 million drug seizure in Taylor County, Leon County, Gadsden County will get their share of it. So if it's $1 million, you're gonna get $100,000 if you one of the 10 counties that's participating in it. That's why it's so important to get involved with that and put a member on that team full time. And that's what we'll do to start helping get that drug problem under control in Gadsden County.
Is there a task force at the Gadsden County Sheriff Department that you know of?
No, I don't think so. I don't know. I don't think they are part of the HIDA task force that Leon County Sheriff's Office with. They may be with one other one, but no, I don't know. But we will meet. And again, to be a part of those task force, you got to be able to give it up also. You can't just take all the time. You have to commit your officer to helping them in their counties. That's how you build rapport. And if you can build that and they trust you, man, you got help coming your way always, as the Lord say.
Wow. Well, listen, I tell you, listen, this has been amazing. I wanted to bring you down. I really wanted to let the community hear your heart. You and I have had the conversation to sit down and chew and chat and drink coffee and drink water several times. And we talked about some of the things that you're talking about now.
Yes.
One of the things that's dear to my heart is our youth, because I tell people all the time, I sat inside of a prison with a grandfather. I sat there with his son. He sat there with his son, and they 3 generations at a table, and they felt as though it was okay that all of them was there.
Yes.
And if we don't stop what we're seeing now, the generational curse of our children following in the path of fathers, following in the path of grandfathers, we're going to lose a generation of men.
Yes.
And I applaud you for having a heart to want to see change take place, especially with our youth and securing safety in our community. It's needed.
Yes.
There was a time that law enforcement were trusted voices.
Yes.
They were people who you trusted.
Mm-hmm.
And now there's questions. So we've got to get back to whereby the community believes in the leadership that is leading us in law enforcement for the safety of our community. Well, listen, with the time remaining, what are the final words that you would say to people who are listening in Leon? They got family in Gadsden.
Yes.
Those who are listening throughout our region who know somebody in Gadsden.
Yes.
What would you say to them?
I can tell you this. I have the knowledge. I have the experience. More importantly, I have that intangible gift from God that I have a passion for serving mankind. That's my alter ego. That's where my Ash come from. Most people know me from just as Ash. A lot of people didn't even know my full name, but that's my alter ego. And you want to get me excited and you want to get me hyped, get me to helping people. Other than that, I'm just Timothy Ashley. But when it comes to being a police officer and serving, I love it. So that's what's important. I have a passion for serving you all, and that's all I want to do is help. I don't want to do anything else than serve you.
Wow. Well, for those of you who are voting in the county of Gadsden, this is what I need you to do. I need you to really, really, really take time out to understand who's running for office. Look at their experience, look at their integrity, look at how they lead. You got to do your research. You can't vote for people just because I like you, and I get in trouble, Mr. Ashley, a lot, because I have a lot of friends who run for office and they like, and I'm like, just because you're my friend, that don't mean I got to vote for you.
Right.
I mean, I want to vote because I look at what you're doing and I look at how important it is to our community.
Right.
And if you're going to fall out and get mad with me because I tell you truth, and people don't like truth. People do not like truth. And if you're upset because we're friends and I don't feel that you're qualified to get my vote, then I'm sorry for you.
Yes.
I want people in this hour to do the research.
Yes.
Don't get caught up on the fiction. Let's look at the facts. And when you look at the facts, you decide, do I want to waste the vote or do I want my vote to count?
Yes.
And my vote counts when I have research candidates to see how qualified they are to serve.
Yes.
I mean, I could be serving for 20 years, but that don't mean I continue to serve. If time for a change is here, then vote for change.
Yes.
Certainly, I want to thank you so much for joining me. And I'm supposed to be on vacation for the whole month, but I think I'll be coming in every week and I'm gonna take another vacation in September. I know my church people are listening now because I'm supposed to be off, but I feel that this election is so important that there are voices that people need to hear, and they need to hear their platform. They need to hear their passion. So I want to thank you so much for they've already for joining us today. They've already started voting. So when people go to the polls for Gaston County Sheriff, who should they be voting for?
Absolutely, Timothy J. Ashley. Hey, I have your best interests at heart, and I don't need anything from you other than to serve you with reckless abandonment. I just want the opportunity. I will make a difference. My platform is my pledge to you as citizens. My platform is my word to you as a citizen that I would do exactly what I'm supposed to do. These things that I'm talking about is not what we want. This is what we need. We are behind in 21st century policing. Our forefathers, Martin Luther King, would be quite disappointed at us because he know we can do better. We can do better than this. We have to do better, and we shall do better, but we have to vote, and we have to get the right support, and we have to pray for each other.
So Gaston County is behind in 21st century.
Yes. Probably 25, 30 years behind.
Wow. All right, I'm gonna take a deep breath on that. I think that closes me out. Listen, you've heard it first right here on the Greg James Community Show. Certainly want to thank you so much, Timothy Ashley, candidate for Gaston County Sheriff Department, Gaston County Sheriff, and he made it clear that Gaston County is behind in 21st century policing. With that being said and done, make sure you get out to vote because your vote matters. And this is an hour, this is a moment where you cannot lose the vote that our forefathers fought so hard to make happen. Until next week, I want to make sure you run into the polls. Until then, thank you so much for joining me. And I appreciate you. And good luck.
Thank you.
And may God open doors and touch hearts to know that we're behind in 21st century. Until then, stay tuned. .D coming up. And for now, I'm gone. Thomas Murray, what's going on? Angela Poole, thank you so much. Hey, listen, y'all keep it locked right here, man. I'm going to be doing more and more of these conversations. I'll probably be doing some off the air, probably just be doing some in our podcast setup that we're working on. You got to hear from these candidates. Listen to me. You got to hear their heart. And you got to do your research because why? You got to make a choice for change. All right. Be blessed.